Hi, you guys. I want to introduce again my book, What I Did for Sex, in which I really go into my marriage and the horrible way that my ex husband treated me when it came to emotions. I'm also going to link in the description a video where Esther Perel is talking about the cornerstones of the demise of a relationship. And they are, and not in any order, indifference, contempt, neglect, and violence. And for a lasting qualities that a relationship needs is appreciation, gratitude, acknowledgement, admiration, and then of course to give each other space and to find other sources of connection so you're not looking to your partner for everything. I'm going to say that my ex-husband was neglectful of me emotionally and indifferent, and he had contempt, and ultimately that's why I left. I want to read to you a few paragraphs out of my book here, because what happened after 10 years of him neglecting me, this chapter is called Avoidance, and when I picked it up I thought, oh, this must be about how he avoided me. But I take a lot of responsibility in this book. I talk about how I avoided him, or we avoided each other. Well, I call him Brad in the book. While Brad was at work and the kids were at school, I went for my runs, cleaned our home, shopped for groceries, did family errands, and looked for a house to purchase. Blah, blah, blah. We finally found a house, and on our final walkthrough, we planned where we would put our furniture. I dreaded sharing a bed with Brad and being on alert for his groping hands. I was done being touched just for sex, especially when the sex was so bad. I had an idea. Why don't you take the guest room and I'll sleep in the master bedroom with the kids? He agreed without hesitation. Maybe he wanted his man cave so he could stay up late to read or watch TV in bed without feeling guilty for keeping me awake. Or maybe he didn't want to be in bed with me either. We had our family dinners on the patio, attended our kids' soccer games, and went on family runs on the trails by our house. We did home improvement projects. We had a dog, cats, and dirt bikes for the boys. I drove our kids to their activities, volunteered at school, and kept up the home. I exercised regularly and felt fit and attractive for myself and for him. I picked up his dry cleaning, made his dinner, and ordered his newspaper. All day long, I had my pills. At night, we retreated into our separate bedrooms. Now, that's what it was like for me. But he wasn't so happy with it either. You know, marriage can be hard. Brad worked long hours, wrote tedious reports he did not enjoy, and dealt with annoying clients. He had gone as far as he could in his field. Earning more money required moving into sales or management, roles he did not love. He dreamed of quitting it all and pursuing his design work, but felt trapped by the financial obligations of a family. Taking risks was for other men who dared such things. He resented me for not contributing to the income, but since he didn't take a stand for it and I wanted to be home with the kids, I did not go back to work. Brad was actually good at his job. He was smart and worked hard. His company and clients loved him. He knocked it out on presentations and proposals and his designs. These things kept me interested and respecting him, but mostly I couldn't stand him. Sometimes I got glimpses of the attraction I once had for him, buried under years of neglect. And I go on and give some examples. Then in a later chapter, that's called coldness. Under coldness, I talk about how, he would come home to the kids and not to me, how I was probably a little bit cold to him, and I was aware of all this. I didn't blame him for coming home to the kids and not to me. Nobody wants to come home to a wife who is cold. After all the years he had pushed me away, I didn't have it in me to want him anymore. I had found my happiness in pills, and he found his in work and children. Brad avoided dealing with our distance. He had always avoided confrontation, yet he also liked being in a relationship. He did not say one thing about his resentments, personal development, or going to counseling to work on our relationship. He wasn't on pills. He was sober. What was his excuse? Then, there's another chapter called Indifference. And this was after we had started being closer again after that trip where we reconnected. And that's where I talk about how he kept pushing me away. Brad liked sex. He reached for me every 2 to 3 days for his orgasms. And then he got up and went to work, leaving me laying there dissatisfied. He couldn't hear me cry over the noise of his shower. Every time I wanted sex, he pushed me away. He had rejected all my sexual advances since the vacation. One afternoon when we sat on the sofa talking and being close, I thought he wouldn't mind. So I ran my fingers up his legs. "Don't do that," he said, frowning, and he pushed my hand away. After that, I was afraid to initiate anything at all. I waited for his advances. Sometimes it paid off and he reached for me. After a couple of minutes, it was all over and he jumped out of bed. "I have to go to work," he said. At night he was tired, in the morning he had to work. On the weekend he had soccer and projects. He did not have passion, emotional connection, or orgasms for me. I had a huge problem, and he had no problem at all. And I want to say that's a huge thing in a relationship. If one partner is very hurt and the other one is indifferent, that is a huge problem. And at the time I excused it because I thought, well, it's my problem. He doesn't want to deal with it because the problem I'm having has to do with him, and he doesn't want to deal with it. I didn't really see how dysfunctional that was at the time. That's why I'm making this video, because a relationship is supposed to be us caring about each other. That's supposed to be our safe place. And if one person is hurting us or neglecting us and we have a feeling about it and they don't care, that's neglect. That is hardcore neglect and indifference. I was devastated and heartbroken about his complete indifference to how I felt. I often sat on our living room sofa, sobbing or wailing. Other times I did it in my car on a trail. Why was he so unwilling to open emotionally? Did he resent me, or did he just hate sex? How could I deal with this without constantly crying? The kids and Brad were puzzled. They had never seen me cry. Now, this was after 22 years of marriage. I was probably 49 years old at the time. I'd always been a happy person. I Googled feelings and talked to my friends, yet I still had no idea how to handle my emotions. Was I allowed to hate him for pushing my sexual expression down, or was I the problem? So that's a little bit about what it was like for me, but I'm going to link the video with Esther Perel. When I listened to that the other day, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that surprised me with my escort clients, when I was an escort, is that they do appreciate me and they do acknowledge me and they do admire me. So in that way, I'm being a lot more valued and appreciated by these escort clients than I was by my own husband, because I guess I'm attracting a different type of man, but I didn't get as turned on, because they really didn't give me that emotional investment. Now, Esther Perel talks about how to keep the desire for a woman. First of all, women get bored with sex easily, so a man's a man loses interest sexually with his partner slowly over time, but for a woman it's very quick. Women have a lot of need for novelty, so listen up, guys. And one thing I did like about sex with my ex-husband is it was different every time. I want it to be different every time. I don't want it to be the same every time, and it can be different every time. The other thing too is that for a woman, sex starts after the last orgasm. Esther Perel talks about that. You don't want to just start 5 minutes before and be like, hey, you want to get it on? At the end of the day, hey, you want to do it? That is not attractive. She talks about how you keep desire alive by pacing. Just like animals in the wild, they're pacing. You come closer, you come apart. So it starts after the last time you had sex. You flirt with each other, you give some space, you come closer, you have to keep romancing your partner. There is nothing, life requires an investment. It requires a relationship, doesn't just happen. If you want a woman to be sexually attracted to you, you have to do that courtship dance on a continual basis, and you have to appreciate her. And that's one thing that I always would talk about with my escort business, that I need to feel appreciated to want sex with a man. I need to feel appreciated. And for me, it was the money they would pay me, which was a lot, and their presence, caring how I felt. So those are things. But yeah, the cornerstones of the demise of a marriage are indifference, contempt, neglect, and violence. And so many people are married to each other, and they're indifferent. They go out to lunch with their colleagues and give the best part of themselves at work, and then they come home at the end of the day and put their feet up and go like, hey, you want to do it? No, not really. I don't want to do it. I want your energy, I want your presence. And for those guys who are saying it's not fair, we want to be loved for who we are, I'm going to say that biology and evolution are not politically correct or whatever. It's just, are you attractive or aren't you attractive? And we know what makes men attractive to women and what makes women attractive to men. And I think those are good things to work on, because those are all things that are symbols of health. They're all symbols of health, really. Whether we're shapely and have shiny hair, whether men have strong shoulders, whether they're happy with their lives. They're all signs of mental, physical, and emotional health. And what's wrong with keeping that up? Again, the book is What I Did for Sex. It's such a good read. I hope that you check it out and leave me a review. And thank you for watching my video.